Hey everyone, welcome to day 19. I've got a special guest with me here today. I kind of feel like a talk show host here all of a sudden. But I brought Rachel on today because, Rachel, you put out an awesome offer to the staff this morning when you texted us all out and said, hey, I'm going to be running by Impressed. Could I bring you all some coffee? Which, for anybody watching, if you ever want to get into the hearts of the staff, for a lot of us, several of us said thank you, but we already have some. But there was one response that was a little bit more energetic, I guess you could say. We won't say who it was. Yeah. So what was that response like?
Well, it included a coffee dance.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I suggested that maybe we should see some of these moves on Sunday morning in worship. No names.
So can you give a brief demonstration of what the coffee dance looked like? I didn't tell her I was gonna ask
Wow,
her
that's great. I'm not a dancer, but it included something with hips shaking and hands going around.
Not bad.
So.
Your response, you kind of shared it there, was this idea of, man, what if we had that same kind of enthusiasm for worship as we do for coffee?
True.
We kind of ran that down a little bit further, and what if we had that same feeling of need for Jesus as we have for our coffee? And you made a great point that it's not coffee for everybody.
It isn't.
So I want to make that clear. Like, for some, coffee is like, that's my warm comfort. What were some of the other things you threw out there?
Well, I love coffee, the smell of it in particular, but it's not really necessary to life for me. But something I would consider necessary to life are books. I mean, we've got a lot of books here.
Yeah.
But for me particularly, I'm kind of nerdy, so fantasy books, science fiction, that's totally my jam. You can ask anyone in my house. I almost always have a book going, either on audio, or I'm carrying around a book, or on my Kindle, on my phone. So that could be a little bit of an idol for me.
Okay. So, and man, you pulled that word out. That's a good word to use. Yeah.
It's a little uncomfortable, but it's true.
Yeah. So coffee doesn't have to be coffee as we talk about this.
And a book doesn't have to be a book.
And a book doesn't have to be a book. Absolutely. I know hey, for years, like NCAA tourney time, you brought that up earlier. Like, that was the most exciting time of the year for me. Now KU, so it's not quite as exciting. So with Psalm 46, going back to that, because that is where I planned on going today. Like, I hope you spent some time and you read that yesterday and throughout the course of today. But it starts by talking about God being our refuge. And as we're having this conversation about coffee or a book, how many times do we grab that warm cup of coffee and it's just this immediate, like, now I feel good. Or grab a book and cuddle up under a blanket and now I feel good. Psalm 46 says that's supposed to be God in our lives. Or it talks about him being a river that flows down and brings gladness into the city. Well, how many for us it's that brown liquid, for me full of sugar, that brings that gladness to our lives? But what if that's how we viewed our time with God? That our time with God was that thing that brings us gladness and refuge in our lives. I don't think God has an issue with coffee. I don't think he has an issue with reading books. But you use that word idol when they become something bigger than him. It's that idea of when a good thing becomes a bad thing, when it becomes the main thing.
Yeah.
This morning, or today, my invitation to all of you is sit a little bit longer with Psalm 46 and read through those descriptions of who God is and what he wants to be for our lives. But also key in on those verses where it says, be still and know that I am God. So sit there and be still with him for a moment and recognize that he does want to be our refuge and he does want to be our river of gladness in our lives. And then just kind of, go back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago and ask him, God, search my heart and show me if there's anything else in me that has actually taken your role in my life. That's your invitation for the day. Do you have anything else you want to add today?
No, you got it.
Okay, awesome. We'll see you tomorrow.